My name is Patricia, and at 34 years old, I'm sitting in an office I never imagined would be mine. The nameplate on my desk reads Vice President of Marketing Strategy, a title that seemed impossible just 8 months ago when my boss Mark told me I wasn't ready for a simple promotion to marketing manager. Before I share how everything turned completely upside down and how the opportunity he desperately wanted ended up on my desk instead, I'm curious where you're all watching from today. If my story resonates with your own workplace struggles, please consider hitting that subscribe button and joining our community. Data Tech Solutions wasn't just another tech company in Denver, Colorado. With 500 employees spread across 3 floors of a gleaming downtown office building, it specialized in data analytics solutions that helped Fortune 500 companies make sense of their customer behaviors. I had walked through those glass doors 6 years ago, eager and ambitious, ready to prove myself in the marketing department that consisted of 15 talented individuals. Back then, I was just a marketing analyst fresh from my MBA program, carrying nothing but determination and a portfolio of academic projects. The marketing department occupied the entire 12th floor, with its open floor plan standing desks and walls covered in campaign posters from our biggest successes. I remember my first day being introduced to everyone by Mark Thompson, our marketing director. At 48, Mark had been with the company for over a decade, and his reputation preceded him. He was known as someone who developed talent, someone who took junior employees under his wing and transformed them into marketing powerhouses. When he personally selected me from a pool of 70 candidates, I felt like I had won the lottery. Those first 3 years under Mark's leadership were transformative. He taught me everything from analyzing market trends to presenting to C-suite executives. Every Monday morning, we would have our one-on-one meetings in his corner office overlooking the Rocky Mountains. He would pour us both coffee from his expensive espresso machine and spend an hour discussing strategy, reviewing my work, and sharing insights from his 20 years in marketing. I soaked up every word like a sponge, implemented every piece of advice, and slowly but surely began to make my mark. By my 4th year, something shifted. I was no longer the eager student needing constant guidance. I had successfully led 12 major campaigns that increased our company revenue by 300%. The campaign for our new predictive analytics tool alone brought in 40 new enterprise clients, each worth at least $2 million annually. My presentations to the board were met with nods of approval and sometimes even applause. I was creating innovative strategies that even Mark hadn't thought of, like our viral social media campaign that generated 10 million impressions without spending a dime on advertising. But as my star was Mark's mentorship began to fade. The Monday morning meetings became less frequent, often cancelled at the last minute due to urgent matters. When I presented new ideas in team meetings, Mark would find subtle ways to poke holes in them, always ending with interesting concept, but let's think about it more. The supportive mentor who once championed my every move was becoming a critic who seemed threatened by my success. Everything changed in January of 2024 when Jennifer, our marketing manager, announced her resignation. She was moving to Seattle for her husband's job, leaving behind a position that I had been eyeing for 2 years. Jennifer had been my direct supervisor, and I knew every aspect of her role because I had often covered for her during vacations and maternity leave. The position managed 8 team members, controlled a budget of $2 million annually, and reported directly to Mark. The day Jennifer left, Mark called me into his office. The winter sun was streaming through the windows, and I remember feeling hopeful as I sat across from him. "Patricia," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, "I need you to temporarily take on Jennifer's responsibilities while we figure out the transition." My heart raced with excitement. This was it, I thought. This was my chance to prove I was ready for the next level. For 3 months, I threw myself into the role with everything I had. I arrived at the office by 7 every morning and rarely left before 8 at night. I restructured our weekly team meetings to be more efficient, cutting them from 2 hours to 45 minutes, while actually accomplishing more. I implemented a new project management system that increased our team's productivity by 40%. 2 major campaigns I led during this period exceeded their targets by 60% and 75% respectively. My team members were thriving under my leadership. Kevin, our content specialist, told me it was the most motivated he had felt in years. Lisa, our digital marketing coordinator, successfully launched her first independent campaign with my guidance. Tommy, our junior analyst, developed 3 new reporting frameworks that became standard across the department. Even colleagues from other departments noticed the positive changes. Sarah from sales mentioned that our materials were more effective than ever, and James from product development praised our collaborative approach. Yet despite all this success, Mark kept delaying the official promotion conversation. Soon, he would say whenever I brought it up, let's get through this quarter first. Then it became after the board meeting, then once the budget is finalized. 3 months of exceptional performance, documented results, and glowing feedback from every direction, but still no formal recognition or compensation adjustment. I was doing the work of a marketing manager on a senior analyst salary, which was $40,000 less per year. April 15th, 2024 was circled in red on my calendar. It was my annual performance review, and I had prepared like never before. I created a 50-page portfolio documenting every achievement, every metric, every success story from the past year. The numbers were undeniable. Under my temporary leadership, our department had generated 30% more qualified leads, improved conversion rates by 25%, and reduced marketing spend by 15% while achieving better results. I wore my best navy suit that day, the one I saved for board presentations. I practiced my talking points in the mirror that morning, anticipating every possible question or objection. My husband David had helped me rehearse the night before playing the role of Mark and throwing tough questions my way. I was ready to finally claim what I had earned. Mark's office felt colder than usual when I walked in. He barely looked up from his computer as I sat down, and I noticed he hadn't prepared anything for our meeting. No papers, no laptop, not even a notepad. So Patricia, he began finally making eye contact. You've been doing great work filling in for Jennifer. Awesome. I launched into my presentation, pulling out my portfolio and walking him through the achievements. I showed him the revenue charts, trending upward. The customer satisfaction scores at an all-time high. The employee engagement surveys showing my team's morale had never been better. I presented testimonials from clients, praise from other department heads, and even a note from the CEO commending our recent campaign. Mark listened with an expression I couldn't quite read. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment, tapping his pen against his desk. Patricia, he finally said, you're doing great, but you're not ready for the manager level. The words hit me like ice water. I felt my carefully rehearsed responses evaporate from my mind. I'm sorry what I managed to say. You need more leadership maturity, he continued as if he hadn't just dismissed 3 months of proven leadership. Your strategic thinking needs development. You're tactical, Patricia, but management requires a different skill set. I wanted to scream. Leadership maturity, I had been leading a team of 8 people successfully. Strategic thinking, I had developed and executed strategies that generated millions in revenue. But I kept my composure, my hands folded tightly in my lap to keep them from shaking. Mark, I've been doing this job successfully for 3 months, I said, keeping my voice steady. What specific areas need improvement? He waved his hand vaguely. It's not about specific areas. It's about seasoning experience. Give it another year, maybe 2. We'll revisit then. Another year or 2, I had already been with the company for 6 years, had proven myself countless times, and was literally doing the job right now. But Mark had already turned back to his computer, the conversation clearly over in his mind. I walked back to my desk in a daze. My team members could see something was wrong, but I forced a smile and dove into my work. That evening, I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes before driving home, trying to process what had happened. David was waiting with dinner and a bottle of wine, but I could barely eat as I recounted the conversation. 2 weeks later, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Patricia, this is Sarah Johnson from Wellington Executive Search. I've been following your work at Data Tech, and I have a client who would very much like to meet you. Sarah explained that Tech Vision Corp, Data Tech's biggest competitor, was looking for a marketing manager to lead their expanding team. They had specifically asked her to reach out to me after seeing my work on the predictive analytics campaign. The position offered a 35% salary increase, better benefits, and the opportunity to build a team from the ground up. I should have said no immediately. I should have been loyal to Data Tech, to the company that had given me my start. But Mark's words kept echoing in my mind. Not ready. Needs development. Maybe in 2 years. So I agreed to take the meeting. The Tech Vision offices were even more impressive than Data Tech's, occupying the top 5 floors of a newly constructed building with 360-degree views of Denver. James Wilson, their CEO, personally conducted my final interview. He was everything Mark wasn't: engaged, forward-thinking, and genuinely excited about my ideas. After 3 rounds of interviews over 2 weeks, they presented me with an offer that made my hands shake: $125,000 base salary plus bonuses, stock options, and a $5,000 signing bonus. The offer letter gave me 2 weeks to decide. I spent those weeks agonizing over the decision. I made pro and con lists, talked to David for hours, even called my mother in Ohio for advice. "Patricia," she said in her no-nonsense way, actions speak louder than promises. What has Mark shown you versus what has he told you? On May 1st, I typed up my resignation letter. It was professional, thanking Data Tech for the opportunities and giving the standard 2 weeks notice. I printed it out, signed it, and walked to Mark's office. He was on a call, so I waited outside, the letter burning in my hands. When I finally handed it to him, his reaction was immediate and dramatic. The color drained from his face as he read. "This is so sudden. What happened? Where are you going?" I kept my response vague, mentioning only that I had received an opportunity I couldn't refuse. Within an hour, I was in a conference room with Mark and Susan Davies, our HR director. They tag-teamed me with questions and counter-offers. Mark suddenly found budget for a raise, though still not to manager level. Susan talked about career development programs and future opportunities. Then Mark said something that changed everything. "Patricia, I need you here. What if I promise you'll get the promotion in 6 months? By November, guaranteed." I looked at him, remembering all his previous promises, all the soons and eventuallys. But I also thought about my mother's words and had a sudden realization. If I left now, Mark would just hire someone else and continue the same pattern. But if I stayed and played this differently, maybe I could change the game entirely. I need to think about it, I said, buying myself time. That evening, I called Sarah Johnson and explained the situation. She was surprisingly understanding and said Tech Vision could wait 3 months for my decision if needed. They wanted me that badly. The next morning, I walked into Mark's office and withdrew my resignation. The relief on his face was palpable. "You won't regret this, Patricia," he said, shaking my hand enthusiastically. 6 months, I promise." I smiled and nodded, but I had already decided that I wouldn't be waiting for Mark's promise. I would be creating my own opportunity. The moment I withdrew my resignation, I knew I had to play a different game. I couldn't just wait passively for Mark to keep his promise, because history had already shown me that his promises meant nothing. Instead, I would use these 6 months to position myself for something even better than the marketing manager role. My strategy was simple on the surface, but complex in execution, become so indispensable and visible that when the right opportunity arose, I would be the only logical choice. But I would do it quietly without alerting Mark to my true intentions. I started by maintaining the status quo at work. I continued performing Jennifer's duties without complaint, even expressing gratitude to Mark for the learning opportunity whenever he was within earshot. I attended every meeting with enthusiasm, supported his ideas publicly, and made sure to copy him on emails showcasing our department's successes. To anyone watching, especially Mark, I appeared to be the perfect team player, patiently waiting for my promised promotion. But outside of regular office hours, I was building something entirely different. I started arriving at the office at 6 in the morning, a full hour before even the most dedicated early birds. During these quiet hours, I analyzed every aspect of our marketing operations, identifying inefficiencies and opportunities that others had missed. I discovered that we were spending $300,000 annually on software licenses for tools that barely anyone used. I found that our content creation process involved so many approval stages that it took 6 weeks to publish a simple blog post. I documented everything meticulously in private files on my personal laptop. The real breakthrough came when I started studying Mark's patterns and weaknesses. After 6 years of working closely with him, I knew his habits, but now I observed them with a different purpose. Mark typically arrived at 9:30 despite official hours starting at 8. He had long lunches with various industry contacts that often stretched to 2 hours. He missed at least one important meeting per week, always delegating to me at the last minute. Most significantly, he had virtually no understanding of the technical aspects of modern marketing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, marketing automation, or data analytics beyond basic spreadsheets. I also began building my network strategically. Every Thursday evening, I attended Denver Marketing Association meetings. Within 2 months, I was elected to the board as secretary, giving me direct access to CMOs and marketing VPs from major companies across Colorado. I scheduled coffee meetings with executives from other companies, always framing them as informal chats about industry trends. Through these conversations, I learned about best practices, innovative strategies, and most importantly, I made myself known in the wider marketing community. My most valuable connection came through one of these networking events. Barbara Chen, the CMO of a Fortune 500 company, became my unofficial mentor. Barbara was everything I aspired to be, brilliant, strategic, and powerful without being ruthless. Over monthly dinners at quiet restaurants downtown, she shared her journey from marketing coordinator to CMO, including the obstacles she faced as a woman in leadership. Patricia, she told me during one particularly memorable dinner in July, never wait for permission to be great. Create value that's so undeniable that they have no choice but to recognize it. But more importantly, make sure the right people see that value, not just your immediate supervisor. That advice sparked my most ambitious project. I called it Project Phoenix internally, though no one else knew about it yet. The idea came from my early morning analysis sessions. I realized that our marketing team was spending approximately 500 hours per month on repetitive tasks, creating reports, updating spreadsheets, sending follow-up emails, and tracking campaign metrics across multiple platforms. What if we could automate most of these tasks? I partnered secretly with Tom from the IT department. Tom was a brilliant programmer who felt underutilized in his current role, mostly resetting passwords and fixing printer issues. I approached him with my idea, and his eyes lit up immediately. We agreed to work on it outside of office hours, keeping everything completely confidential. For 3 months, we met 3 times a week at a coffee shop near the office. Tom would bring his laptop, I would bring my marketing expertise, and together we built something remarkable. The tool we created could integrate with all our existing marketing platforms, automatically, pull data, generate reports, and even provide AI-powered insights and recommendations. It could do in minutes, what currently took our team days to accomplish. We tested it extensively, using dummy data, refining and improving with each iteration. Tom added features I hadn't even thought of, like predictive modeling for campaign performance and automated budget optimization suggestions. By October, we had a fully functional prototype that could revolutionize how our marketing department operated. But I didn't reveal it. Not yet. Barbara had taught me the importance of timing, and I knew that showing this to Mark would only result in him taking credit for the innovation. Instead, I documented everything meticulously, every line of code, every feature, every test result. I even filed for provisional patent protection, paying the fees myself. Meanwhile, I kept track of my continuing achievements in the marketing manager role I was still unofficially filling. Our Q3 results were the best in company history. We had increased qualified leads by 45%, reduced cost per acquisition by 30%, and our customer retention rates were at an all-time high. I made sure these numbers were visible to everyone, not just Mark. I presented them at company-wide meetings, included them in newsletters, and even got them mentioned in a local business journal article about Denver's thriving tech scene. By November, I had been doing the marketing manager job for 10 months without the title or compensation. Mark's promised 6-month deadline had come and gone with new excuses. The board wants to see Q4 results first. We need to wait for the annual budget meeting. Let's get through the holidays. Each excuse was delivered with less conviction, as if even he was getting tired of the charade. But I wasn't frustrated anymore, because I had learned something important. Mark would never willingly promote me. He saw me as a threat, someone who might eventually challenge his position. By keeping me in a lower role while extracting manager-level work, he got the best of both worlds, excellent results without competition. What Mark didn't know was that I had stopped playing for the promotion he was dangling. I was playing for something much bigger. July 2024 marked the 1-year anniversary of Jennifer's departure, and I was still waiting for the promotion Mark had promised multiple times. The excuses had become almost comedic in their creativity. First, it was budget constraints that mysteriously only affected my promotion, but not the 2 new hires in the sales department. Then it was the need for board approval, which was strange, since manager-level promotions had never required board involvement before. By September, he was citing organizational restructuring that nobody else seemed to know about. Each delay was delivered with decreasing eye contact and increasing discomfort on Mark's part. He knew he was stringing me along, and he knew that I knew it too. But he also seemed confident that I had nowhere else to go, having already turned down my resignation once. The team morale was suffering from the leadership uncertainty. Kevin had started job hunting, tired of not knowing who his real boss would be. Lisa was frustrated by the lack of clear direction often coming to me for approval on projects, only to have Mark override my decisions later. Tommy, despite his continued growth, was confused by the mixed messages and informal reporting structure. I maintained my composure publicly, but privately, I documented everything. Every email where Mark promised the promotion, soon. Every instance where he took credit for my work in executive meetings, every time he undermined my authority with the team. My documentation folder grew thick with evidence of a pattern that was becoming impossible to ignore. The breaking point came in October, during what should have been a routine budget meeting. Mark was supposed to present our Q4 marketing plan to the executive team, but he had a family emergency that morning. As usual, he called me 30 minutes before the meeting asking me to cover for him. I agreed, as I always did, and delivered a flawless presentation that impressed everyone in the room. After the meeting, Richard Stone, our CEO, pulled me aside. "Patricia, that was exceptional. You really understand where we need to take our marketing efforts." He paused, studying me with those sharp grey eyes that missed nothing. "Tell me, how long have you been handling the manager responsibilities?" I gave him a diplomatic answer about supporting the team during a transition period, but Richard wasn't satisfied. 10 months is a long transition, don't you think?" he said before walking away, leaving me with the distinct feeling that he knew more about the situation than he let on. The universe has a funny way of opening doors when you least expect it. 2 days after that budget meeting, I was checking my email when I saw an internal announcement that made my heart race. Datatech was creating a new position, Vice President of Marketing Strategy. This wasn't just a step up from marketing manager. It was a leap into senior leadership reporting directly to the CEO and sitting on the executive committee. The position requirements read like my personal resume. Extensive experience in both traditional and digital marketing, proven track record of innovation, technical expertise in marketing automation and AI, demonstrated leadership abilities and strategic thinking with measurable results. They wanted someone who could transform our marketing operations for the digital age. Someone who understood both the creative and analytical sides of modern marketing. Mark Wyatt noticed didn't meet half the requirements. His experience was impressive, but traditional. He had no technical expertise, had shown little innovation in recent years, and his strategic thinking was rooted in marketing paradigms from a decade ago. For the first time, I saw a path that didn't go through Mark. It went around him entirely. That evening, I had dinner with Barbara to discuss the opportunity. "This is it," she said immediately after I described the position. "This is what you've been preparing for, whether you knew it or not." She helped me see that everything I had been doing, from building Project Phoenix to networking with industry leaders, had been preparing me for exactly this moment. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing my application with the intensity of someone training for the Olympics. My resume was refined and refined again until every word carried weight. My cover letter told a story of transformation and vision, not just qualifications. But the real masterpiece was my presentation, should I get the interview. I created a 100-slide deck that outlined a complete transformation of Datatech's marketing operations. It incorporated everything I had learned from my networking, my early morning analysis sessions, and my secret work with Tom. The centerpiece was Project Phoenix, which I would reveal for the first time as part of my vision for the department's future. The application required 3 references. I chose carefully Barbara Chen, whose name carried tremendous weight in marketing circles, James Wilson from Tech Vision, who was happy to support me despite my not taking their offer, and surprisingly Susan Davies from HR, who had witnessed firsthand my contributions and Mark's delays. I submitted my application on November 15th, bypassing Mark entirely by sending it directly to Richard Stone and the board, as instructed in the posting. I knew Mark would find out eventually, but by then it would be too late for him to interfere. The interview invitation came 3 days later. November 20th, 2 o'clock in the executive boardroom. I would have 90 minutes to present my vision to Richard's CFO, Michael Torres, COO, Jennifer Walsh, and 3 board members I had only seen from a distance at company events. Mark found out about my application the day before my interview. I was preparing my materials when he stormed into the small conference room I was using, his face red with anger. "You went behind my back," he accused, slamming the door behind him. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." I stayed seated, maintaining my calm. "Mark, you've had 10 months to promote me to manager. This is a different position entirely." "You're not ready for VP," he sputtered. "You don't have the experience, the relationships, the strategic understanding." I pulled out a folder from my bag and placed it on the table. Mark, would you like to see the email trail where you've promised me the manager promotion 7 times, or would you prefer to see the documentation of how you've blocked it each time? His face went from red to white. How did you? The same way I know you told HR in September that I was, and I quote, too ambitious for my own good, and that promoting me would disrupt team harmony. The same way I know you've been discussing bringing in your former colleague Robert for the manager position instead. Mark stared at me, his mouth opening and closing without words coming out. Finally, he found his voice. I'll make your life miserable if you stay here. You'll regret this. I stood up slowly, gathering my materials. Mark, after tomorrow, I won't be reporting to you anymore. One way or another. I walked past him to the door, then turned back. You taught me a lot in my first 3 years here. It's a shame you stopped being the mentor you once were. We could have risen together. November 20th arrived with the kind of crisp Denver morning that made the mountains look close enough to touch. I dressed in my best charcoal suit, the one I had bought specifically for this occasion. David made me breakfast, but I could barely eat, my stomach tight with anticipation. He kissed me goodbye at the door, whispering, "You've got this," in my ear. I arrived at the office an hour early, using the time to review my presentation one final time in my car. Every slide was memorized, every transition, practiced every potential question, anticipated and answered. Tom had wished me luck the night before, knowing that Project Phoenix was about to be revealed to the world. Barbara had sent me a simple text that morning. Show them who you really are. The executive boardroom was on the 15th floor, a place I had only been to a handful of times. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of downtown Denver, and the long mahogany table could seat 20. When I walked in, the 6 decision-makers were already seated, their expressions neutral but attentive. Richard Stone smiled warmly and gestured to the presentation setup. Patricia, we're all very curious to hear your vision. Please take your time. I began, not with slides, but with a story. 18 months ago, a small startup in Austin with 5 employees and no marketing budget took 15% of our market share in Texas. They did it using AI-powered personalization and automation tools that we said were too experimental. Today, they're valued at $50 million, and we're still using the same marketing playbook from 2015. That got their attention. Michael Torres leaned forward and Jennifer Walsh started taking notes. I clicked to my first slide showing our current marketing metrics versus industry leaders. We weren't losing yet, but we were falling behind in crucial areas: customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, and digital engagement rates. But this isn't a story about problems. I continued moving to my vision slides. It's about potential. DataTech has the talent, the resources, and the market position to not just catch up, but to lead. We can transform marketing from a cost center to a profit driver, from a support function to a competitive advantage. I walked them through my 5-year roadmap, each phase building on the previous. Year 1 would focus on operational efficiency and team development. Year 2 would introduce advanced personalization and predictive analytics. Years 3 through 5 would establish DataTech as the thought leader in B2B marketing innovation. Then came the moment I had been building toward. Let me show you something we've already built, I said, connecting my laptop to the presentation system. This is Project Phoenix. I demonstrated the tool live, showing how it could pull real-time data from our various marketing platforms, analyze it, and provide actionable insights instantly. I showed them how it could predict campaign performance with 92% accuracy, automate report generation that currently took 3 days down to 3 minutes, and identify opportunities we were currently missing. The room was silent for a moment after the demo. Then Jennifer Walsh asked, "Who built this?" "I designed it and built it in partnership with Tom from IT," I answered. "We've been working on it for 4 months outside of regular hours. It's fully functional and ready to deploy." "What would it save us?" Michael Torres asked, ever the CFO. Conservative estimate 500 hours per month in manual work, which translates to about $300,000 annually in labor costs. But the real value is in what those hours can be redirected towards strategy, creativity, and innovation. Plus, the improved campaign performance could increase revenue by an estimated 15 to 20%. The questions came fast and fierce after that. They challenged my assumptions, probed my experience, and tested my knowledge of everything from budget management to team psychology. I had answers for everything, not because I had memorized responses, but because I had lived this work for 6 years. "Tell me," Richard said during a brief pause, "why should we put you in a VP role when you haven't even held a manager title yet?" It was the question I knew would come, and I had thought deeply about my answer. Because titles don't create value, capabilities do. I've been performing at a manager level for 10 months and delivering director level results. But more importantly, this role isn't about managing what exists. It's about creating what doesn't exist yet. You need someone who understands both the traditional foundations and the digital future. Someone who can bridge the gap between marketing art and marketing science. I paused, making eye contact with each of them. You need someone who's hungry enough to build solutions at 6 a.m., before work, connected enough to bring industry best practices from outside our walls, and brave enough to challenge the status quo even when it's uncomfortable. That's what I offer. Richard asked one final question. What about Mark? He's been your supervisor for 6 years. How would that dynamic work? I had prepared for this too. Mark taught me tremendous amounts in my early years here, and I'm grateful for that foundation. If I get this role, I would ensure he's supported in his director position while we transform the department together. Change doesn't have to be adversarial, it can be collaborative. The 90 minutes flew by faster than any presentation I had ever given. As I packed up my materials, Richard shook my hand. We'll be in touch soon, Patricia. Thank you for your time and preparation. I walked back to the 12th floor on shaky legs, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. Mark's office door was closed, but I could see him through the glass talking animatedly on the phone. When he saw me pass, our eyes met for a brief moment. His expression was unreadable, but I thought I saw something that looked like fear. That afternoon, I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept replaying the presentation. Had I been too aggressive? Not aggressive enough. Should I have mentioned more specific ROI projections? The self-doubt that follows any major performance crept in despite my confidence during the actual presentation. Tom stopped by my desk late in the day. How did it go? He asked quietly. I showed them Phoenix, I said. They seemed impressed. His face broke into a huge grin. Patricia, we built something amazing. Whatever happens, that doesn't change. 3 days passed without word. I continued my regular duties, leading meetings, reviewing campaigns, and managing the team as if nothing had changed. Mark avoided me completely, scheduling meetings when he knew I would be elsewhere, and communicating only through email when absolutely necessary. November 25th. The Monday before Thanksgiving started like any other day. I was reviewing our Black Friday campaign performance when my phone rang. It was Susan from HR. Patricia, Richard would like to see you in his office. Are you available now? My heart stopped for a moment, then resumed at double speed. I'll be right there. The walk to the 15th floor felt both endless and too quick. I didn't even have time to text David or call Barbara. This was it, one way or another. Richard's corner office was even more impressive than the boardroom, with personal touches that made it feel warm despite its size. He was standing by the window when Susan led me in, and he turned with a smile that immediately eased my anxiety. Patricia, please sit, he said, gesturing to the comfortable chairs arranged around a coffee table rather than the formal desk setup. I'll get straight to the point. The board's decision was unanimous. The VP position is yours if you want it. The words took a moment to sink in. When they did, I felt tears threatening to form, but I held them back through sheer will. I want it. I managed to say, my voice steady despite the emotion. Excellent, Richard continued. Now let's talk specifics. The base salary is $180,000 plus performance bonuses that could add another 30%. You'll receive stock options vesting over 4 years and, of course, the executive benefits package. Your start date in the new role would be January 1st, giving us December to transition. The number made my head spin. It was more than double what I was currently making and significantly more than even the manager position would have paid. But Richard wasn't done. There is one condition, he said, his expression becoming serious. This role requires rebuilding the entire marketing department structure. Some people will embrace the change, others won't. You'll need to make difficult decisions about personnel, potentially including people who have been here longer than you have. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Mark, about the teammates who had become friends, about the comfortable dynamics that would be disrupted. But I also thought about Kevin's frustration, Lisa's untapped potential, Tommy's hunger to learn and grow. I'm prepared, I said firmly. There's one more thing. Richard added, a slight smile playing at his lips. Mark doesn't know yet about your new position. Given the dynamics, I thought you should be the one to tell him. HR will send the official announcement tomorrow afternoon, but you can speak with him whenever you feel appropriate. The meeting continued for another hour as we discussed transition plans, immediate priorities, and long-term strategy. Richard shared his vision for the company's growth, and how marketing would play a crucial role. By the time I left his office, my notebook was full of ideas and my mind was racing with possibilities. I didn't go back to the 12th floor immediately. Instead, I went to the parking garage and sat in my car, finally allowing myself to feel the full weight of what had just happened. I called David first, and his whoop of joy was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Then I called Barbara, who simply said, "I knew it. I knew you had it in you." When I finally returned to my desk, Mark was in his office with the door closed. I decided to wait until the next morning to tell him, wanting to choose the right moment and setting. But fate had other plans. At 4:30, just as people were starting to leave for the holiday, Mark appeared at my desk. "We need to talk," he said, his voice tight. "Now." I followed him to his office, noting the stiff set of his shoulders. As soon as the door closed, he spun around. "I just got off the phone with Robert. He heard from someone on the board that the VP position has been filled. Tell me it's not you." There was no point in delaying the inevitable. "It's me, Mark. Richard offered me the position this morning." The colour drained from his face, then rushed back in a wave of red. "You went behind my back," he said, his voice rising. "You plotted and schemed while pretending to be patient." "I was patient," I replied calmly. "I waited 10 months for a promotion you never intended to give me. I did the work without the title or pay, and when a new opportunity arose, I competed for it fairly." "Fairly," Mark laughed bitterly. "You think showing off some pet project you built in secret is fair? You think undermining your direct supervisor is fair?" I pulled out my phone and showed him an email. "This is from September, Mark. You told HR that I was too ambitious, and promoting me would disrupt team harmony. You were actively blocking my advancement while telling me to wait. Who really undermined whom?" Mark stared at the screen, his jaw clenching. "I was protecting you," he said finally. "You weren't ready. You're still not ready. This VP role will eat you alive." "Maybe," I said, standing to leave. "But that's my risk to take now. Mark, we could have grown together. You could have championed my promotion and been celebrated as a leader who develops talent. Instead, you chose to hold me back out of fear. I'm sorry it ended this way." "Don't pretend to be sorry," he spat. "You got what you wanted." I paused at the door. "No, Mark, I got what I earned. There's a difference."
Yes, it was so serious.
The next day's company-wide announcement caused the stir I expected. My phone buzzed constantly with congratulations from colleagues, many sharing their own stories of stalled careers and inspiration from my success. Kevin, Lisa, and Tommy each stopped by my desk, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and uncertainty about what this meant for them. "Nothing changes until January," I assured them, "and when it does, it will be changes we make together." But Mark's reaction was swift and petty. He reassigned my projects to other team members without consultation, excluded me from meetings, and even tried to revoke my access to certain systems. Susan from HR had to intervene twice in 3 days, reminding Mark that retaliation would not be tolerated. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Mark sent an email to the entire marketing team announcing he would be exploring other opportunities, effective immediately. His last day would be December 13th. The email was professional, but the subtext was clear. He couldn't stand working under someone he had held back. January 1st, 2025, arrived with a fresh snowfall that made Denver look like a snow globe. I stood in my new corner office on the 15th floor, looking out at the same mountain view that had once been Mark's, now mine. The nameplate reading, Patricia and Patricia Anderson, Vice President of Marketing Strategy, had been installed that morning, and I ran my fingers over it, still not quite believing it was real. My first act as VP was to call an all-hands meeting with the marketing department. The conference room was packed with some people standing in the back. I saw familiar faces filled with curiosity and some anxiety. Change is never comfortable, even when it's necessary. I want to start by acknowledging the elephant in the room. I began standing rather than sitting to keep the energy dynamic. Yes, I'm 34. Yes, 6 months ago, I was your peer. And yes, Mark is gone. But this isn't about age hierarchy or the past. It's about our future. I outlined my vision for the department, showing them the same slides that had convinced the board. But more importantly, I showed them Project Phoenix in action. The gasps when they saw what it could do were gratifying. Tom, who I had brought up from IT to join my team, officially demonstrated features that would eliminate their most tedious tasks. This isn't about replacing anyone, I emphasized. It's about freeing you to do what you do best, be creative, strategic, and innovative. The robots can handle the repetitive stuff. Kevin raised his hand. What about our roles? Are they changing? Some will evolve, I said honestly. But everyone in this room has a place in our new structure if they want it. Kevin, you'll be leading our new content innovation lab. Lisa, you're heading up digital experience design. Tommy, congratulations, you're our new marketing analytics manager. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Tommy looked like he might cry. These weren't just title changes, they came with salary adjustments that I had fought for and won with Richard's support. Over the next 3 months, we transformed the department completely. We hired 5 new specialists in areas we had been lacking: AI and automation, customer experience, design, data science, video production, and influencer relations. 3 people who couldn't adapt to the changes chose to leave, but they did so with generous severance packages and glowing recommendations. Project Phoenix was rolled out in phases, and the results were immediate. Our first quarter metrics shattered every record: leads up 45% conversion rates, up 30% customer acquisition cost, down 25%, and customer lifetime value up 50%. The board was ecstatic. But the real victory came in April when DataTech won the Marketing Innovation Award at the National Technology Conference. Standing on that stage, accepting the award on behalf of my team, I thought about Mark's words, "You're not ready." He had been right in a way. I wasn't ready to be the kind of manager he envisioned, one who maintained the status quo and didn't threaten the hierarchy. I was ready for something much more. The irony of Mark's situation didn't escape me. 2 months after leaving DataTech, he took a position as marketing director at a smaller company in Colorado Springs. Through the industry grapevine, I heard he was struggling to adapt to a market that had evolved past his expertise. Meanwhile, his former colleague Robert, whom he had wanted to bring in as marketing manager, reached out to me for a job. I hired him as our new partnership marketing manager, where he thrived under clear leadership and innovative direction. TechVision, the company whose offer had started this entire journey, became one of our clients. James Wilson, their CEO, personally called to congratulate me on the VP appointment. "I knew you were special when we interviewed you," he said. "I'm glad you found your path, even if it wasn't with us." They signed a 3-year contract worth $5 million, one of our biggest deals to date. My team flourished in ways I hadn't even imagined. Kevin's Content Innovation Lab produced viral campaigns that generated millions in earned media. Lisa's user experience designs increased our website conversion rate by 60%. Tommy's analytics framework became the standard not just for our department, but for the entire company. Even Tom, who had felt trapped in IT, became our chief marketing technologist, building tools that other companies tried desperately to poach him to replicate. The executive committee meetings were a different world from the marketing team meetings I was used to. Sitting at that table with Richard, Michael, Jennifer, and the other VPs discussing company strategy and million-dollar decisions, I sometimes felt like an imposter. But Richard always made sure my voice was heard, often turning to me for insights on customer behavior and market trends. 6 months into my new role, we had not only met every target, but exceeded them significantly. The marketing department's budget was increased by 40% for the next fiscal year, and I was given approval to expand the team to 25 people. The transformation was complete, but the journey was just beginning. One afternoon in July, I received an unexpected visitor. Mark stood in my office doorway, looking older and tired. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I gestured for him to sit. For a moment, we just looked at each other across the desk that now separated us in more ways than one. "I came to apologize," he said finally, "and to thank you." I raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. "I was terrified," he admitted. "Terrified that you would surpass me, that you would make me irrelevant. So I tried to keep you down, and in doing so, I became exactly what I feared: irrelevant." He paused, gathering himself. "But you, thanking me in your resignation letter that you never sent, saying I taught you valuable lessons that stayed with me. Because you did learn from me, just not what I intended to teach. You taught me what kind of leader not to be," I said gently. "But also in those first 3 years, you taught me the fundamentals that everything else was built on. I meant it when I said we could have risen together." Mark nodded slowly. "I'm starting my own consulting firm," he said, "helping traditional marketers adapt to digital transformation. Ironic, right? My failure became my expertise." Before he left, Mark turned at the door. "You were ready, Patricia. You were always ready. I was the one who wasn't." The journey from that April day when Mark told me I wasn't ready to sitting in the VP office was just 8 months, but it transformed my entire life. In the beginning, the rejection felt like a crushing blow, something that made me question my worth and abilities. I spent sleepless nights wondering what was wrong with me, why I couldn't seem to break through that invisible ceiling, no matter how hard I worked or how much I achieved. The stress of those months took its toll. There were nights when David would find me crying in our home office, surrounded by papers and presentations, trying to figure out what more I could do to prove myself. I developed anxiety that manifested in physical symptoms, headaches, insomnia, and a constant knot in my stomach. My therapist, whom I started seeing in May, helped me understand that the problem wasn't my inadequacy, but rather the toxic dynamics of being held back by someone who saw me as a threat rather than an asset. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, my therapist, introduced me to the concept of professional gaslighting, where a supervisor systematically undermines your confidence while extracting maximum value from your work. "Patricia," she said during one session, "you're not crazy for feeling frustrated. Your response is completely rational to an irrational situation." Those words were liberating, helping me separate my self-worth from Mark's assessment of my readiness. The healing process wasn't immediate. Even after getting the VP position, I battled imposter syndrome daily. Every meeting with the executive committee, every major decision, every presentation to the board came with a voice in my head asking if I really belonged there. It took months of therapy, meditation, and supportive conversations with David and Barbara to quiet that voice. But gradually, success became the best medicine. Each achievement, each innovation that worked, each team member who thrived under my leadership served as evidence that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The Marketing Innovation Award wasn't just a professional achievement, it was validation that my vision and capabilities were real regardless of what Mark had believed. The transformation in my team provided the greatest satisfaction. Watching Kevin evolve from a frustrated content writer to an innovation lab leader, seeing Lisa's designs win industry recognition, witnessing Tommy's growth from junior analyst to analytics manager, these successes meant more than any personal accolade. I had become the leader I wished I had had, one who recognized potential and nurtured it rather than feared it. My relationship with power also evolved. Initially, I wanted the VP role to prove Mark wrong, to show that I was ready despite his doubts. But once I had it, I realized that true power isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about the ability to create opportunities for others, to remove obstacles, rather than create them, to build systems that allow people to do their best work. I instituted monthly innovation days, where team members could work on any marketing-related project they wanted, no approval needed. This led to some of our most successful campaigns and tools. I created a mentorship program that paired senior team members with juniors, ensuring knowledge transfer and career development. I fought for and won a policy where any team member who brought in significant cost savings or revenue increases would receive a percentage as a bonus. The ripple effects extended beyond my department. Other divisions started adopting our practices. HR asked me to lead workshops on innovative leadership. Richard began including me in strategic planning sessions that went far beyond marketing. I was building not just a successful department, but a new model for how departments could operate. My mother visited Denver in August to see her successful daughter in her new office. As she sat in the chair across from my desk, looking at the awards on the wall and the view of the mountains, she said something that stuck with me. "Patricia, I'm not proud of you because you're a VP. I'm proud because you didn't let someone else's fear define your future." She was right. The greatest victory wasn't the title or the salary or even the recognition. It was breaking free from the limitations someone else tried to place on me. It was learning that sometimes the person telling you you're not ready is really saying they're not ready for you to grow. Barbara and I continued our monthly dinners, though now they were less about mentorship and more about peer exchange. "You've graduated," she told me one evening. "You're not seeking advice anymore. You're creating your own playbook." She was preparing to retire, and she had recommended me for several board positions at other companies, saying I was ready to influence beyond just my own organization. The story came full circle in an unexpected way when Susan from HR asked me to speak at the company's annual Women in Leadership event. Standing in front of 200 employees, I shared my story not to vilify Mark, but to illustrate a crucial point. Your career isn't defined by what others think you're ready for, but by what you're willing to prepare yourself for and pursue despite the obstacles. Every no is just redirection, I told them. Every closed door forces you to find or create another entrance. Mark telling me I wasn't ready for manager was the best thing that could have happened because it forced me to aim higher than I ever would have otherwise. After my speech, dozens of employees approached me with their own stories of being overlooked, undervalued, or held back. I started hosting monthly office hours where anyone could come discuss their career challenges and aspirations. These sessions became so popular that we had to move them to a larger conference room and eventually made them virtual to accommodate everyone who wanted to participate. The impact went beyond data tech. My story, shared through industry publications and conference speeches, resonated with professionals everywhere who had faced similar situations. I received hundreds of messages from people saying my journey inspired them to stop waiting for permission and start creating their own opportunities. But perhaps the most meaningful message came from an unexpected source. Mark's daughter Emma, a recent college graduate, reached out on LinkedIn. Ms. Anderson, she wrote, "My dad told me your story and it inspired me to apply for positions I thought were beyond my reach. I just wanted you to know that even though things ended badly between you and my father, the lesson from your experience is helping the next generation. Thank you for not giving up." Looking back now from my corner office, I realized that every moment of frustration, every sleepless night, every tear of disappointment was preparing me for something greater than I could have imagined. The promotion I didn't get to manager led to the VP position I never thought to pursue. The mentor who failed me taught me how to be a better leader. The notice I cancelled became the decision that changed my life. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Mark had promoted me when he first promised. I would have been satisfied with manager, grateful for the recognition, and probably stayed in that role for years. His rejection, painful as it was, forced me to see beyond the next rung on the ladder to possibilities I hadn't even considered. The universe has a strange way of protecting us from what we think we want in order to deliver what we actually deserve. Mark said I wasn't ready, and in trying to prove him wrong, I discovered he was accidentally right. I wasn't ready for the small promotion he was withholding. I was ready for so much more. And sometimes that's the greatest gift someone can give you, even if they never intended it as one. The most important lesson from this entire journey is that readiness isn't something someone else determines for you. It's not a permission slip granted by supervisors or committees or boards. Readiness is a decision you make every morning when you choose to prepare, to learn, to network, to build, to try. It's showing up even when doors are closed, creating value, even when it's not recognized, and believing in your capabilities, even when others don't. To anyone reading this who has been told they're not ready, who has been asked to wait just a little longer, who has been promised opportunities that never materialize, I want you to know something important. Their assessment of your readiness is just an opinion, not a fact. Your job isn't to convince them otherwise. It's to prepare yourself for opportunities they can't control, build skills they don't possess, and create value they can't ignore. And when that opportunity comes, when you finally get the chance to show what you're truly capable of, remember those who doubted you, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because sometimes the person who tells you you're not ready is the one who inadvertently pushes you to become more than either of you imagined possible. That's my story, and it's still being written. Every day I walk into my office, see that nameplate with Vice President on it, and remember that the best response to someone saying you're not ready is to become so undeniably excellent that readiness becomes irrelevant. Success doesn't ask for permission, and neither should you. If my journey resonates with your own experiences, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. What obstacles have you faced in your career? How did you overcome them? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Please take a moment to like this video if it inspired you, subscribe to our channel for more real stories of triumph over workplace challenges, and share this with someone who might be facing their own mark right now. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you're more ready than anyone else could ever know.